the Quinn Show.
My next guest found herself on various Disney Channel shows at a young age. From cracking things with her fists in order to bully Miley Cyrus, to enjoying summer camp with Ashley Tisdale, to even being managed by David Henrie's mom. You can say she is a real Disney kid. Now, she's a political researcher. It is my pleasure to welcome to the Quinn Show, Jaelin Palmer. Jaelin, how is it going?
It's going great. It's very cold where I am, and so I wish I was back in California right now.
I feel that. I'm in Canada, so I 100% know you're talking about the cold. So I'm with you, and I'm in a basement, so that doesn't help.
Oh.
Just want to get started. It's funny actually you mentioned California. So usually how I do these is we'll kind of start right from the beginning, right when my guests were like kids and everything. So you growing up in California, I kind of want to know, like, what was a young Jaelin into? Were you into books, sports, movies? Like, what was the one thing you were like, yes, like that is my thing?
So I called my mom this morning to kind of talk to her about little Jaelin, and she just 100% said, like, performing always. Like, I was always doing that from the time I was a little kid. She said, like, I was doing plays. I was making my siblings do shows with me. I was making the kids in the neighborhood do shows with me. I was inviting like people in the neighborhood over to watch shows that I was putting on. One time in my grandma's neighborhood, I had planned out a show that I was doing, and I had assigned seats for everyone, if my mom remembers, and like, little me, like, I was doing this from the time I was like 2 years old. And so I was like 4 years old, and she remembers, like, for some reason I had assigned this neighbor a seat like in the back row, and I like made the neighbor sit there just because like that was where I had put her name, even though like obviously there were tons of seats around, but like I had seen somewhere that you could assign seats, and I was like, oh no, you're like, this is your spot, ma'am.
That's
and this is
so
where
funny.
you are sitting. Yeah. And
there's 6 people in the front row, and then there's like 4 rows, and then your neighbor in the back.
yeah. And I was like, this is your spot because this is where I put your name. And like, I was 4 years old, so it was like, you know, badly scribbled on a thing. But like, yeah, I was like, this is where you're sitting.
See, I find that interesting because like everyone else I've ever interviewed, they had something else. Like, it wasn't, the main thing was not entertainment or acting or performing. It was like kind of like as they got older, they got into it, let's say like 5, 6, 7, but they had other things. Like they had sports, they had comic books. So, but like your thing was just performing, huh?
Oh yeah, no, it was totally me. My mom said, like, at 2 years old, I saw a commercial of a girl brushing her teeth, and after it, I said, like, look at me, mom, brush, 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 brush. Like, I'm going to be on TV. Get me an agent. And my mom was like, where did you even hear that word, agent? Like, where would you hear the term agent? Like, my mom just laughed. Like,
Right.
That's crazy. And I was like, I'm going to be like that girl. I'm going to be on TV. Watch, I can do it too. Brush, 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 brush. Just like on the TV. And yeah, like my grandma had this fireplace, and it had like a little lip, and that was my stage all growing up. Like that was where it was in Utah. And when I was 4 years old, we were about to move to California. Right before that, and my mom found like this agent showcase, and my mom took me to that, and it was one of those like scam places where you like pay for like the thing, and my mom figured that out quick. My mom is very business savvy and very smart, but because my mom took me to and was like, we're about to move to California, like, how do I do this? Like, my kid is very like performing savvy, and we have this photo that like I could even send it to you to like put on the screen or whatever, but we have this photo that we have today, and I have a number on my chest, and I'm smiling with my mom from the day of, and my hair is like all curled and everything, and I went and I sang Me and My Teddy from Barney, I think, like, me and my Teddy getting all ready for bed. And like I performed like a whole number there and everything.
Wow.
Because like my mom was like, my kid like has to do something. But yeah, I mean, like we have old VHS videotapes of me like writing whole scripts and doing like TV shows and home videos and doing like Disney style TV shows where like I would be like, and this is Jessica, and like I'd have them freeze, like my siblings do freeze, like a freeze frame, like on Disney Channel shows. But yeah, no, it was always performing for me. I would do like full things. I would perform Disney Channel movies like from Pocahontas, "You've changed some, pal," is how I would say it. But yeah, always performing.
Interesting. And like, what did your parents do for careers? The fact that your mom sounded like whatever she was doing, she just kind of dropped and was like, "Hey, let's pursue what Jaelin wants."
So my parents were not performers at all. This was not what they were into. My dad is a special education teacher. That's what he did my whole life. He did that for 35 years. He specializes in kids with emotional disturbances. He has 2 master's degrees. He went back to school twice for that while we were growing up. And we actually moved around a bit when I was a kid while he was trying to find the best job for that. I was born in Arizona. We moved to Idaho where my sister was born, Utah where my brothers were born. And then we ended up in California, finally, where he ended up teaching. And then my mom was a reporter for a newspaper. And she worked until my brothers were born. So I have a younger sister, and then I have twin brothers. And so twins are very valuable in the acting business. And so just like FYI, my mom worked until my brothers were born. She had twins, and then she went back to work when they were 14. But twins are very valuable in the acting business just in general. So when I started acting later on, and we can go into that, my brothers were like, we all acted at one point. But yeah, so, but yeah, my mom and dad were always very supportive of whatever we wanted to do in life. Like one thing that I think my mom taught me especially is that you can do whatever you want to do in life if you work hard enough and you just like research and figure it out. And that's what my mom always did. She was like, okay, you want to do this, then we will figure it out. Like there was nothing that was too out of touch or out of reach. She always knew that if you research and talk to enough people, like you can figure out how to make something happen.
I love that. That's awesome. And clearly, I mean, it worked. So that's crazy that they just nothing to do with entertainment. And then you just were the exact, like you were entertainment in your mind, right?
Yeah.
So then when you ended up moving to California and then you were obviously going to school and stuff, was that like plays at school, musicals at school, anything outside of school? Like what was kind of the day-to-day life for you then?
So what ended up happening is we moved to California, and my mom had no idea like how to get into acting, right? Like she had no idea how that worked. So my mom she saw in the paper that there was an audition for a local play, and it was Annie. And so my mom said, okay, well, like you obviously would love to do that. So she took me and I auditioned for the show Annie. My dad actually auditioned with me because even though my dad is not like he wasn't in show business or anything, he still likes to do that kind of stuff. So he auditioned with me and he got the role of FDR, the president in the show. And they had me be Tessie, the girl who goes, oh my goodness. And I did. And so I got in that show, and we met this other girl named Mackenzie, and her mom, and the other moms just saw me and were like, oh my gosh, like this kid, like you have to do something with her. And there were actually, so the older girls in the show who were like 11 to 14, sometimes I would kind of almost get bullied by them because they would get mad at the director. They'd be like, she's taking over the scene. Like, they'd be like, make her calm down. And the director would literally be like, match her energy level, girls. Like, she's 6 and 7 years old. Like, bring it up. Like,
I love that.
And so because like we would do sometimes like charity shows at like old folks homes, and old ladies would come up to me and just be like, you are just the cutest, like we love you, because Tessie leads that song, You're Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile, and you better believe I milked that song. You know, like I was at the front and it was like, hey hobo man, hey Dasher Dan, like I was like living for that song, you know. But anyway, so that mom taught my mom how to get into professional acting. And back then it was literally, you took like a physical a picture of yourself and like a physical resume that you put on the back, and you mailed them out to agents. There was there was no internet or anything. And so you were looking in Backstage West, like magazine, and you were finding the names of agents, and you were mailing out these headshots to people. And so my mom and this local lady, like, we found a local YMCA, and I took acting classes, and I found this local guy who said he took headshots, and like my first headshots were like not very good, you know, because they were taken in like a local park by this local guy, you know, and I lived out in San Bernardino County, so I should say. So all during my acting career, we never moved to LA. So we drove like 2 hours to every audition. Like every time we auditioned, we an hour and a half to 2 hours, and sometimes like with traffic it would take like 3 hours, like each way. So we were like out in the boonies. I come from a small town called Yucaipa. It's near like Redlands. It's also like 35-ish minutes from Palm Springs. So yeah, we're like out there. So we're like physically mailing headshots to agents and managers. And it's always a catch-22 because you need an agent to get a manager and a manager to get an agent. So we are trying to do that. And so we eventually see this manager, and I go and I see this manager, and eventually one of them sees me and she's like, do you have any other kids? And my mom's like, oh yeah, I have a daughter and I have twin boys. And she's like, I'm sorry, you have twins? And she was like, oh yeah, I have like 4-year-old twin boys. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to need to see the twins. And my brothers are fraternal, but what we ended up doing is we dyed one of their hair blonde to match the other, because as my mom says, you don't mess with natural blondes.
Fair. That's fair. I used to be bright blonde and I miss it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a thing my mom believes in. But my poor one brother, he would always say, it burns when we dye his hair. And so, but yeah, we did it. And people are pretty much dumb enough that if you just say they're twins and they have matching hair, they're like, they look just alike.
Wow.
And even though we don't really believe they looked that much alike, people believe they would. And the reason why twins are valuable is because despite what people are saying now, there are a lot of laws in Hollywood for child acting. And one of them is, depending on your age, you can only work so many hours, or in young children's cases, so many minutes. And so with twins, they can play the same role and you can change them out. And so that's why people love twins. Actually, the show Louie, starring Louis C.K., in the original pilot, in the show, if anyone remembers, he has a daughter, but in the original pilot, he had a son, and my brothers were the original son in in the Louis C.K. pilot.
No way.
Yeah, and in the original pilot, like he was carrying them around and everything, and I very strongly believe he should not have gotten back in Hollywood and everything, and like screw Louis C.K.
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, like I really do not like him.
Nope.
We obviously did not have any bad experiences because, and like we can have a talk about like child actors in Hollywood and stuff, but my mom was always very present on set. But yeah, my brothers were the original kids in that pilot, and so my brothers switched out on that show,
right.
And were the original sons in that. But yeah, and would switch out in that TV show.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but yeah, and so eventually we did get a manager and an agent from sending out those headshots, and we we were able to get started. And that's how I did it. I was just in a play and we met another mom and she showed my mom how to do it. And then from there, like my mom really just like figured out the business. My mom is very savvy and she figured out how it worked. And we did a couple of extra, we were talking about this morning. We did like a few extra jobs. Like I think while we were getting a manager and agent, and then as soon as we got a manager and agent, they were like, cut that shit out. Like,
wow,
don't do any more extra stuff.
huh.
And then we only audition professionally.
Oh, interesting. So I mean, I guess it's smart that they did that because at that point, then it'd be a lot easier to get other roles versus trying to just do extra stuff on the side for those bigger roles. Also, like that your mom was so present, but at the same time, she wasn't your manager and agent because I know that could go really bad sometimes. So it's nice that it sounded like she let them do their job, but she was there, like to make sure everything ran smoothly, right?
Well, yeah. The thing is like momagers and agents, especially back then, like. That can't really be a real thing unless you already knew the business. Like my mom couldn't have been our agent and manager. Like that would have been impossible because she didn't know, she didn't know anyone in the business. She didn't have the contacts. She didn't have the legal know-how. She didn't have like the subscriptions to everything because back then you needed that to be able to submit. Like our agents were actively submitting us for auditions on these websites that back then like barely existed. And then also like actively like making calls to people to like get us auditions, you know? And back then like you needed to know those people, right?
Yeah.
And like my mom did not have those connections back then to be able to do that. But there is a law in California that your parent has to be within sight and sound of their child at all times. And honestly, every documentary that we've watched so far about like these problems that have happened with child actors have been because a parent was not within sight and sound of their child. Right. And honestly, like I've never victim blame at all, like because obviously it wasn't these child's fault. It's the parents' fault. Like my mom was never not within sight and sound of us. She was always she could always see us. She could always hear us, and she used common sense. She would never, even with our managers and agents, she would never leave us alone with them. And our managers were women. Managers were women. And I mean, Dylan and Cole Sprouse's manager who were arrested and who has been arrested and convicted of crimes, we knew him. His name is Marty, and he wanted to represent my brothers. And my mom was around him. She would never leave my brothers alone with him. Like she never. Right. Like that was never something that crossed her mind. She would never like let them like walk off alone and have time alone with him. Like that, no, like, and my mom never did the same thing, like, with our, like, managers and agents, like, she, like, and that's not, like, a law, but, like, you know, that you can't leave your child alone with the manager, but, like, my mom is a woman with common sense who uses her, like, intuition and, like, you know, takes care of us. And on set, like, she was always within sight and sound of us. So, like, we were never put in uncomfortable situations with producers or, like, where we felt pressured to do something or something like that because my mom was right there. And so she could see us if, like, we were like, oh, we don't know what to do in this situation. My mom would just, like, step right in and be like, oh, okay, well, like, we're going to go or, like, we're going to do this or, like, how can I help you do that? You know, because my mom was always right there. And so, like, I was never in an uncomfortable situation.
Right. Actually, later on, if you're good with it, I do want to get into that Nickelodeon documentary that came out last year. So after you did the Annie, then you got your manager, your agent, and everything. You and I talked about this. So when I was a kid, I remember it felt like every single commercial break, there was Kids Bop, the CDs and everything. And then you were on your a different version, Disney's version, called Superstar Kids with a Z. Just to make sure there was a Z in there. So at 8 years old, you're doing this. How did this come about, you singing on Superstar Kids?
Yeah, so this was actually my very first job. It was my very first commercial. So I didn't sing on the album. I was in the commercial for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so those are two separate things. And so basically, it was actually my sister's audition. So there is something called union and non-union commercials, and union back then. So SAG and AFTRA weren't joined together, right? AFTRA and SAG were separate entities back then. And so if you were union, you were SAG. And so this was, and Disney was AFTRA. And that was a very smart business decision on their side because AFTRA paid less. It was non-union. And, you know, Disney owns the world. And so this was a non-union commercial. And because you have to work 3 jobs before you become SAG eligible, and to do like union stuff. So anyway, this was my first job, non-union. And my sister got an audition for it. And basically for the audition, you showed up and they just had kids in lines, and they would press play on a boom box, which was what was had back then, and they'd say dance, and you had to dance to the music, and they would just cut kids, and like see who was left. But we get there and they see my sister and they're like, "Oh, we shouldn't have called you in. You're too young for this." And then they looked at me and they were like, "Is that your sister?" And I was just there because it was after school and I just like tagged along. And my mom was just like, "Yeah, this is her sister. She's 8." And they were like, "Oh, okay, well, if she wants to audition, she can do it." And my mom was like, yeah, just like, go, just do it. And I was like, okay. And so I just hopped in line. And I remember that the blonde kid who's in the commercial was also there at the time. And like, so there were like some really good, like professional kid dancers that were there. There were like some really bad dancers. And there were like some kids in between who just done like musical theater like me. And so I just started dancing. I didn't get cut, and made it till like, there were like a bigger group of us. And then they were like, "Okay, like we looked at all of you, we'll like let you know." And we were like, "Okay." And then we all went home. And later on, we got a call that I had booked it. And things work really fast in acting. Like you get a call for an audition the night before, and like usually like when you book things, it's like the next day, like you are going. And so they were like, "Okay, you're probably doing like these 5 songs. Make sure you know all the words to them." And then they told me that like the one you're probably doing by yourself is "So Yesterday" from Hilary Duff. I'm a huge Hilary Duff fan.
That's my girl. That's my woman crush every day of the week. She's my favorite celebrity in the world. Yes.
I loved Hilary Duff. And she is the one person that I never got to meet. And so I was behind her once in a McDonald's drive-thru.
No way.
Yeah, and so like this is the thing, like I was such a big fan of her that I knew what car she drove, like as a child. So like I literally knew that like that was her car, and she leaned out and I was like, "Oh my God, that is Hilary Duff."
No way.
Like,
the silhouette. That's
yeah.
crazy. No way. I love Hilary Duff so much. Lizzie McGuire was one of my favorite Disney
Oh
Channel
my
shows.
gosh. That was the show that introduced me to Disney Channel. Like I was a child, and like my mom was scrolling through the channels and I was like, "Wait, stop on this. I'll watch this."
So good.
And like that was like how I discovered Disney Channel.
Yes.
Yeah. Love Lizzie McGuire. It is my all-time favorite Disney Channel show.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah.
The movie was ahead of its time because I know we're off topic, but my fiance and I the other day we were talking about High School Musical like box office earnings, the Hannah Montana movie box office, and Lizzie McGuire. Lizzie McGuire was so much lower than the rest of them, but I was like, it was also the time because High School Musical had 1 and 2 on TV, and then it was like boom, here it is, theatrical release. Hannah Montana obviously was bigger than Lizzie McGuire, and then boom, had a theatrical release. I just think it was a little bit ahead of its time. Maybe I'm just biased because I love Hilary Duff so much, but
I didn't even know the Lizzie McGuire movie was in theaters.
Yeah, I remember seeing it with my mom. I also went and seen Hilary Duff in concert with my mom too. My first concert.
You got to go to see her in concert?
Yeah.
See, my mom was not like a take me to concerts thing like
The
as a
one
kid.
and only my mom and I only ever went to was Hillary Duff. I've not been to a concert with her since.
Oh, that is so cool. Like I had to go to my first concert like on my own as an adult. Like my mom did not take me to concerts as kids. Yeah, like I loved Hillary Duff though. Like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, I knew everything about her. Like I had those magazines with like facts about her and like I would memorize them, like knew her
Yep.
birthday, like
Mhm.
loved
Yeah,
Hillary
she's
Duff.
the best. Oh,
Yeah.
and now she had a perfect transition from Disney or kid star to adult.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the blueprint on how to do it.
Yeah, she never had like any scandals. Like she was just great. And
I
like
remember her and Lindsay Lohan had those feuds, but that was really it for her.
I don't even really remember that. Like
You should search them up later. I remember I can't remember it was her that made fun of. I think Lindsay made fun of Hillary on SNL or something like that, and then there was just a big feud between the two of them.
I remember her getting like edgy, and she had like Hillary Duff, like the black painted nails and like her like edgy stage, and I was like, oh my gosh, like yeah, I want to be like Hillary.
I think that was one of the I think she was like that when I saw her because I think the album I saw was it was called Most Wanted. I think.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure, and that's when she was like she was like doing like kind of rockish music. Yeah. So that's when I saw
her
rock
I was 8. Music.
Yeah. So that was how old am I? I was born in '96, so that's 2004. I think. Probably. Okay. Yeah, 2004, 2005. I think I saw her. So
I was born in '94. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we're almost the same age.
Yeah.
So sorry, I got us off topic on that one. So you did So Yesterday.
Oh yeah. So I was doing So Yesterday by Hillary Duff, which I was super excited about because Hillary Duff is everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so they were like, learn all these songs. So like So Yesterday was like easy one. I was like, yeah, I've got this one. But there were like 5 other songs that you also had to have memorized. Like by the time you got to set because we had to learn dances to them. And I remember getting to wardrobe, and for some reason, like this is a memory in my brain. I remember that the shoes that they gave me were like a size too small, and they really like squeezed my feet because we were dancing. And so I was just like, these shoes hurt. But one of the other kids on set, she hadn't done this role yet, but was Taylor. She's Lava Girl.
Oh, no way.
What's her name? Taylor.
I know. I can't remember her last name either. Which is kind of funny. There's both Taylors were in that movie, but I do not know her last name either. But I know who you're talking about. Yes.
This is really bad that I don't remember her name because we have stayed.
You keep talking. I'll search her up.
Yes, please do. We're still friends on Instagram.
No way.
Yeah. So this is maybe cut this part out where I don't remember her name. Because like we were friends like throughout acting.
Julie.
Yes, Taylor Dooley. Yeah. So yeah, Taylor Dooley was in the commercial with me. She ended up being Lava Girl, and my mom, Taylor Dooley, is a little older than me. But so we were cut out of some of like the dances that we learned, and I was upset about it. At the time, I was 8 years old. I think she was like 10 or 11. And my mom was like, look at Taylor. Look how she's just sitting on her mom's lap and she's fine. Like, you need to act like her. You need to be a professional about this. Like, you can't like overreact. And so this is sort of where like stuff crosses over into like child actors having to like learn how to work at a young age. Where like this was my first job, and like this was kind of like my first lesson in being a worker, or like being this being a job, where I had to learn I couldn't be upset because I was cut from a number. I had to because I wanted to cry. I wanted to be an 8-year-old. I was like, oh, I learned this whole dance, and like now they're not going to let me be in it, like in the dance number on film. And my mom was like, no, like you need to sit here like a professional and and know that like you are not going to get everything you want, and like move on and you'll be in the next number. And I was like, oh, and I was like, okay, look at how this other kid who has more experience is behaving. Like I need to behave like her. I need to model that behavior. I need to be a professional, and I need to move on and like keep performing. And that is something that I learned from a very young age. And it's something that served me very well through the rest of my life. At age 17, I was put into a position in my city where I managed all of the city's pools, the pool system, at my hometown. And so was my younger brother, actually, not the city's pools. Actually, he was hired by the county to manage the county pool system. We did similar things in our family. Even though we were child actors, at age 15, you had to get a job. And the only job you can really do is be a lifeguard. And my parents were lifeguards as kids. So we all became lifeguards at age 15. Mm-hmm. And we were all very quickly promoted throughout the system. And I largely credit that to acting because we all were very good at talking to adults, and we all very much knew how to handle ourselves in a workplace by then.
Right.
So that was like one of my first lessons. I will say that Taylor Dooley is a very bad dancer. She has, I do not know how she got that job. She has terrible, she has terrible rhythm. Even if you watch the commercial to this day, you can see that she's like still like, even though they tried to time it like off with the beat when she like goes back and forth, like trying to like step back and forth. Love you, Taylor, but terrible dancer.
That's so funny. You know what's hilarious? That you sent me that a few mons ago. I didn't even notice her in it. I'm gonna have to go re-watch it now.
Yeah, no she's in way. a red top and capri pants, like crop pants. Terrible dancer. Yeah. So, and you know what's funny? My third commercial I ever did was for this like this tape, this invisible tape thing. She was also in that commercial with me, and she and I was pissed off as a child in that commercial too, because she got put like featured ahead of me in that commercial, and she was like lifting up the tape in the commercial, and like the director was like, great job, you look so great, yes, just keep lifting it up, yes, wonderful. And I'm like sitting behind her in the classroom, and my like childhood brain is thinking like, she's lifting a piece of effing tape, like she's not doing that. I can do that. Let me do it.
It's not that great. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, she's fine. Like, she's doing what you need to do in the commercial. Like,
right.
You know, he was just trying to get the best performance out of her. I just wanted to be featured in the commercial because, like, I'm a child actor and we all want to be featured. Every kid in that room was thinking that, you know, like, let me do it, you know.
Yeah. I can do it so much better.
Yeah, like, let me lift the tape. I can lift the tape, you know. But yeah, she was in that commercial with me. Like, I ended up seeing Taylor Dooley around a lot, actually, and Taylor Lautner, actually.
Wow.
We became friends as well.
As I was doing like this research and stuff into you, and obviously you told me about the Superstar Kids, I realized that like you're technically first credited role, obviously it's not your first role, was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with RDJ, Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer, where you played pie eating contest kid is what they named you. So for that, was it just a simple audition process? Your agent was like, hey, we got this, can you just eat the pie, pretend to eat the pie, whatever it was? Like how did that kind of start off for you?
So this is funny. My mom actually reminded me of this morning when I called her. So first of all, hold on. There we go. So that was actually one of my extra credits. So that was an extra thing, but I did 3 extra roles before I started my thing, started auditioning for real. And every time I did an extra role, I would always like get pulled by a director's assistant or whatever for something like special. Like they would always kind of like see that I was like I was like trying to do something extra, like I was like an extra sparkly kid or something. And so what ended up happening is a assistant director ended up pulling me. And I ended up riding to set with Robert Downey Jr.'s son, who is right next to me. He, in that scene, the next scene over, he is cutting a kid in half. It's doing like a thumbs up. But he's cutting a kid in half, like for a magic show. Not just like cutting a kid in half. Sorry, I shouldn't. Like I'm not like trying to diss RDJ's kid. His kid is named Indio because he was conceived in Indio, like near Palm Springs. And my mom, how we realize that is we're getting in the van to go over to set, and RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., comes over and kisses the woman who's sitting in the van with us. And my mom's like, what is happening? And all of a sudden she realizes that the kid sitting next to me is his son and that the woman is his wife.
Wow.
and so like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, this is cool. But yeah, so so Robert Downey Jr. was just like right there next to us, kissing the lady, and like I'm riding over with Robert Downey Jr.'s kids. So I was just an extra on set, and the assistant director pulled me for that role specifically. But what I do remember about that scene is that they had us pick out our pies to eat, like what flavor we wanted for the scene. And I specifically picked cherry because I hate peach pie. And then I had to go to the bathroom. And then and then when I came back, the kid next to me who was eating the pie, he switched our frickin' pies.
What a jerk.
Yeah, he switched our pies. And then like, I didn't have time to say anything because then they were like, action. And I was like, I'm not gonna eat the peach pie. Like, I don't want to eat the peach pie. So I just like I just put my face in and I just like mushed my face in it. I didn't eat it. I just mushed it. And here's the thing, you're not supposed to actually eat anything on set either. Like when you eat, after you cut, they have buckets and you spit everything into it. They won't let you eat anything because everything sits out all day. Nothing is fresh. And so they don't want you to get sick. And so you'll notice in any movie you see, no one actually eats anything. Like people are just pushing things around on plates. Now if you haven't noticed before, watch any movie, no one actually eats. And if anyone does actually put anything in their mouth, like it is not getting swallowed. Like they will cut immediately after and it will be spit into something. In newer stuff, it's starting to happen more because like they'll have it spit or like things will be fresher, like nowadays, but especially in old movies, like nothing is eaten. But anyway, in that scene specifically, after they were like, what happened here? And I was like, the thing is like, you're not supposed to complain on set. You're not supposed to do anything. So I was just like, things got messy. It's a pie eating contest. Like I didn't want to complain about the kid like switching it. I didn't want to make a thing. And
that's smart though. Smart. Now it's funny because you mentioned your younger brothers being actors as well at the time, and I swear I'm not just saying this because you're on here. One of my favorite movies is Yours, Mine, and Ours. That you played the bully kid, and that's the same movie that both your brothers are in. So how did the process of getting that role work? Was it like you were in as an extra, and then your brothers got the main role, or was it vice versa?
Oh no, so people don't realize, first of all, like how expensive it is to be in acting. So that was my brother's like first big role. So growing up, people always thought like we were rich because we were actors. We were not. My mom always said like this was the thing we did. Some people had Disneyland passes, right? Some people went to the lake every weekend. We did acting. Because for acting, you have to pay for acting classes. You have to pay for headshots. You have to pay for the gas there. 10% of everything you make goes to your agent. 15% of everything you make goes to your manager. And so, like, at some point, like, at this point, it was very early in our careers. And my mom said we were kind of at a breaking point where we were like, okay, we either need to like book something big or we're going to have to quit because we weren't really making any money. And it was getting too expensive to drive back and forth to LA all the time. And so it was kind of a thing. So my brothers had auditioned for this movie, Yours, Mine, and Ours. I had nothing to do with it at this point. We remember going to the audition. We actually met Claudia, who plays, she's the blonde sister who I'm trying to remember her name in the movie. She's the older teenage blonde sister. I can't remember exactly like what her specific role is. Later on, she was on the show Just for Kicks, where she plays soccer. But I know that Haley Ram is the soccer player in in Yours, Mine, and Ours, because she's Kelly, where they sing "Go Kelly, Go Kelly."
Yep.
The
Yep.
other team
I was literally just looking at that.
Yeah. But we met her at the auditions. So anyway, my mom and dad are on a cruise, and my mom gets the call on the cruise that my brothers booked Yours, Mine, and Ours. And it was a big deal. And my mom's, our manager is like trying to call my mom like on the cruise, and she's like getting like wardrobe people and like other people trying to call her. This cruise is like a week, and like her cell is going in and out of like signal. But it was a big deal that they booked this movie because if people don't know, Yours, Mine, and Ours kind of like rivaled Cheaper by the Dozen too. There was actually one producer that worked on both movies, and he had to choose which movie to work with. In the end, he chose Yours, Mine, and Ours.
Wow.
Probably wasn't the best decision. Cheaper by the Dozen 2 like way outperformed Yours, Mine, and Ours. But Yours, Mine, and Ours was with Dennis Quaid and Rene Russo. My brothers were on like the poster that went everywhere. Like, you know, we'd be going down like Hollywood Boulevard or Sunset Boulevard, and we'd see like big posters that came out during Thanksgiving time. It's funny because they're twins. Occasionally, the team would get the posters wrong, and they accidentally put like To a Bridger on on like big billboards, huge billboards. There'd be like To a Bridger, like with during Thanksgiving with like turkey legs. Like up on these huge billboards on like Sunset Boulevard, and we'd have to be like, "We're so sorry, Brecken. We're so sorry. You're not on this billboard."
And only you guys would notice it as their family too, right?
Yeah, and they're like 6 years old, and because like we know in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter. But when you're 6 years old and like you see this big billboard, they're like, he's like, Brecken at this point couldn't say his R's, so it was very cute. He was like, "They don't care about me." And so like, you know, it's sad for a 6-year-old when he sees that, because he's like, you know, aw, like he was sad. But anyway, so very big deal that they booked this movie. So at the beginning, they're still auditioning people to finish the rest of the characters for the movie. All of a sudden, I asked my mom, like, "Do you remember like me getting this audition? Like, was it a big deal?" She was like, "It was literally just like another audition that came down the pipeline. Like, you just like it came through. Your like agent called, you went in, you auditioned, and like it was no big deal, and you got the role." And then when we got on set, I asked, like I told one of the assistant directors, we got to know the staff very well. Because this movie actually shot for 3 months. It's not normal for a movie to shoot that long, but there were so many kids on this movie. And it was like such a big production that this movie shot for 3 months. But so we ended up getting to know these people very well. But so my mom was like telling me the specific assistant director that we knew. And she was like, you know, my other daughter actually got this role. And it's actually just like kind of crazy that the scene that I'm doing with my actual brothers. Like there are 18 kids in this movie, but this role that I got in the scene is like specifically with my brothers. So like when I practiced the scene for the audition, like I practiced it with my brothers.
That's
who
cool.
I do the scene with in the movie. And so my mom's like telling this assistant director, you know, my daughter got a scene like in this movie. She's in this movie too. And she was like, "Oh, is she?" She was like, "We literally didn't know. Like we would have hired her anyway. Like we had no idea she auditioned."
That's cool.
Like yeah, no, like we just hired her. So I mean, we had no idea that she was
shows that it was
related.
on talent alone, not being the sibling of them.
Yeah, and so that was really cool. Like Raja, the director, had no idea. Like when I got to set that day, because by the time we filmed, I had been hanging out on set with them a little bit. And so like when I got to set that day, I was like hanging out in like by the camera, and he was like, "Hey, Jaelin, like we gotta film." And I was like, "No, I'm in this scene. Like I'm the bully for this scene." He was like, "What?" And I was like, yeah, no, and he was like, oh yeah. And he was like connecting the dots in his head, like thinking back to like auditions and stuff like that had happened like a month before. And he was like, oh yeah. He was like, I didn't even realize. And he was like, okay, this is gonna be a fun day.
That's awesome.
And, yeah, so it was funny. And then my sister is actually an extra in the movie as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in 2 scenes if you look. So all 4 of us are in the movie.
That's really cool. So I was actually just watching a couple of clips of this earlier. I would say this is easily in my top 3 of Disney Channel shows of all time. Hannah Montana. You were in Hannah Montana where you played the Cracker. And again, I just rewatched this earlier and it still cracks me up. I remember when I was a kid watching it, like I was legitimately scared of the Cracker. I'm like, if there was a bully like this in my school, I would literally be so scared. So, like I mentioned in the intro, the Cracker literally just cracks things with her hand. She baseball,
specifically walnuts.
And walnuts, yes, walnuts too.
Mm-hmm.
So, a couple of things about this. So at that point, I think if the timeline in my head lines up correctly, the show was on for about a year at the time you were on it. Maybe it was about when you aired. Oh, it aired. Okay. Were you a fan of Hannah Montana?
Yes. So it was during its first season still.
Oh, okay.
And I was 11 years old at the time. So when I auditioned, I told them I was 13 because funny thing about casting directors, even though they're hiring actors, they have no imagination at all. So like when you go into a room, when I audition for a bully, I did not go in like bubbly, happy Jaelin. Like this is not who I went in with. I would enter a room and I'd be like, hey, what's up? Like, my name's Jaelin. And like I would walk differently, I would sit down differently. Like I would be like a whole different person because in their minds they cannot associate like a bubbly, happy person with then being a bully, which is crazy because like they're hiring actors. Like that's literally what we do.
Yeah.
But they can't do it. And they also can't like figure out age. And because in the acting world, everyone is very short. I don't know if like you know that, but or if people know that, everyone in acting is very small. The Sprouse twins are 5 feet. Ashley Tisdale's 5'2". Like just in acting in general, everyone's very small. I was very tall for my age. At 11 and 12, I was 5'6". And so I grew very early. And so like I was sort of typecast into bully and hulking goth girls for Sweet Life. So anyway, told them I was 13. Obviously, like if they looked at my paperwork and stuff, they could figure out how old I was, but told them I was 13. I was 11 years old at the time. They call us for that audition. And back then there was no like smartphones or anything. So we call our friend and we are literally like writing the lines down on the back of a piece of paper for Hannah Montana, like from a phone. And we're writing them down. And then like I have on this bright pink shirt that like I can't wear into this bully audition. So we go to this famous thrift shop called Out of the Closet on Santa Monica Boulevard. And I get this Coldplay shirt from like Rush of Blood to the Head. And I don't know if like anyone knows what this shirt looks like. I Googled it before this. It's like a head with like its head sliced off. And it's like this it's like this gray shirt. I'm like 11 years old wearing this gray shirt from this like consignment shop because like that's all I could find, because I have like a couple hours before this audition. So I go in with that because that's what I could find. And I have on like this jean jacket, these black gauchos, and that's what I could find to like be a bully in an hour and a half. And I have these lines written down by hand on the back of a piece of paper. So I'm like doing the best I can, right, in an hour and a half to like get to this Hannah Montana audition that I know if like I can nail, like I can do this part, right? I'm like, if like I can do this, like I can be this. I want to be on Hannah Montana so badly. And I, at that point, like I'm 11 years old. I do love Hannah Montana. I remember her summer concert series had just came out. If We Were a Movie, that was like the song that had just came out. Love that song. I was listening to Hannah Montana songs as I was getting ready for this, and and that song "I've Got Nerve" came on.
Yes.
That was one of my favorite ones.
So good.
Yeah, loved that. I used to perform little concerts in my room, like with a Barbie microphone, like when I was that age, and so like, yeah, I was like, I got to do this. So I go in, I do the audition. I specifically remember that it wasn't taped. A lot of times it's taped and like sent to someone else, but like it was just the casting director, so I knew she was making the decision. And I'm like on the way home, and I'm just like, oh, I hope I get a call back for this. I hope I get a call back. And usually it's like at least a day. We get a call in the car on the way home from the casting director saying, you got a call back. You got to call back. You definitely know how to be a bully. Dress like one next time. She literally was like, your outfit was terrible. Yeah, she was like, you definitely know how to act like a bully. Dress like one next time. And we
That's
were
surprising.
Like, well, I mean, it matters how you look for
True.
these things.
Good point.
Honestly, for acting, like no one really cares about your talent or anything. It is 90% how you look. Wow. For things, 90%. Like if you fit the physical description of what they are looking for, and it is so frustrating. Let me tell you, like so frustrating. 90% what you look like, and the rest is like the rest they could barely care about.
Right.
But we were like, yes, ma'am. And we went out and we shopped for this like callback. And we bought green camo pants. We bought actual steel-toed like black boots, like steel-toed worker boots, which I wore on the episode because they liked them so much. Yeah, I am wearing those in the episode.
That's cool.
Because they were like yes to that. And then I bought like this black shirt and this camo this camo like vest with a hood, and they very much liked that outfit. I'm basically, the pants that I am wearing in the episode are like identical to the ones I wore in the callback. And yeah, and I kept that outfit for like 20 years because I was like so attached to it because it got me that role.
Right. That's amazing.
And yeah, and the thing is though, they were not sure about me because it took me like 2 weeks to get the call that I got that role, and I did not get to do the table read for Hannah Montana. And I finally got the role. I was doing the play Snow White. I was playing Snow White in Snow White. And my mom reminded me that I was at the rehearsal for Snow White, and she told me there, and I screamed really loud. And the director came over and she was like, I can tell something really exciting happened because that was a crazy scream. And I told them, and I had to miss opening night of me playing Snow White in Snow White for Hannah Montana. But you better believe, like, I was like out of there.
Yeah.
I was like, I am doing Hannah Montana. And honestly, doing a TV show is a lot like doing a play because you are like, you rehearse for 3 days and then you do it in front of a live audience. For Disney Channel, you do it in front of a live audience for the last 2 days when you film.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was very similar.
I know you talked about this on your social medias before, but can you kind of tell the listeners about working with Miley Cyrus and Emily Osment? Because I think you had a pretty good experience.
Yeah, I did. I had a great experience working on set. They were both very kind. Like Miley Cyrus was very nice to me, just in general. They both thought that I looked younger than 13 years old. There was one specific situation where I was standing there with them one morning, and I had asked to take a photo with them. I wanted to take a photo with them before, it was before we all got in hair and makeup, but really before I got in hair and makeup, because I looked crazy once I got in hair and makeup. they used literal modeling clay and oil in my hair, like actual like gray modeling clay in my hair. And so I took a photo, and then we were all standing there, and Emily Osment is just, or Miley Cyrus is just kind of looking at me, and she like squints her eyes a little bit, and she was like, "You look younger than 13. Like, you just look younger." And Emily was like, "Miley, that's so rude. Like, you shouldn't tell people that they look younger." And Miley was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to be rude." Like, and Emily was like, "Yeah, don't say that to people." Like, and I'm just standing there being like, "Oh my God, like, is this bad? This is bad." And I was like, "Nope, I'm definitely 13. I'm a 13-year-old. Okay, great. It was great talking with you guys. Bye." And I like scurried off because I was like, I don't know what to do in this situation. And I was
the fact that she had the eye to know that you were younger than you were saying.
Yeah, it was. I don't know what made her like think that about me, or like what she was seeing, like looking at me, because there's that photo from that time, and then, like, if you look at all three of us, I think we all look about the same age,
right?
You know,
yeah. And they're older than you, right?
They're 13.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. That makes sense. That's how Miley knew. She was like, "Wait a minute, I'm 13. You're not 13."
Yeah, because when you're that age, like every birthday matters, right? Like every like you want to be 14, you want to be older and stuff, and so she was just looking at me, and she was like, and I was like, "Nope, I'm definitely older."
Other things I had about Hannah Montana. One, just because unfortunately he's in the news recently. What was your experience with? Did you ever meet Billy Ray? I think you did, correct?
I actually have a really great Billy Ray Cyrus story.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So Billy Ray Cyrus was super kind to me. So Billy Ray Cyrus, because I was very nervous, and I knew he was very famous. After every scene that he did, all week, I would be like, "You did such a great job, Billy! Great job!" And I was like, I would just tell him after every scene, "Great job! You did such a good job! Great job!" And at the end of the week, he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, Jaelin, I just wanted to say that you've been telling me all week how great I did, but I want you to know that you did such a great job. When I first read this role, I honestly didn't know how they were gonna get someone to do it. It just seemed like such a crazy, like such a crazy description. And I just thought, honestly, it was kind of dumb. And honestly, I'm your biggest fan." He said that to me. He was like, "I am your biggest fan, and I want to know what else like you've been in, and like to see like other roles that you've done, because you did just such a great job with this role. And I think like you really nailed it. And I really enjoyed seeing you work this week. And I'm just like really proud of the work that you did." And I had asked to take a photo with him, and he was like, "Yeah, let's take that photo now," and everything. And he took a photo with me, and he took the time to like take me aside and tell me that. And and it was my first like real role on television. And so that meant a lot to me for him to say that. And yeah, it was very kind of him. It was Noah Cyrus's birthday that week on set, and Miley like invited me to the on-set like birthday party and stuff, which was super nice of her. And everyone was just very kind to me. So that was really nice. I had a lot of fun, I will say, also with the guy who played Dandruff Danny. Yeah, so much fun with him. I have tried to find him, cannot find him now. So I always put it out there. If anyone can find the guy who played Dandruff Danny, I would love to connect with him today. He was a dancer at the Debbie Reynolds Dance Studio, which is like a super revered dance studio. So he was so talented, such a great dancer. And we would do the High School Musical dances in between takes. And we would just like be doing them, and people in the live audience could see us like dancing them in between takes, because like they can see in between that, and they thought that was really fun. And at one point the host like had us come out into the live audience and like do some of the dances with the guests and stuff, which was really fun for us. And so we just got along great, and we had so much fun that week together.
That's really cool. That is really cool. I like that because I mean, a lot of the time there are issues that people have with actors or actresses that are the main cast, because so many of them have that massive ego. So the fact that Miley was that nice to you, Emily was that nice to you, and then Billy Ray, that they took you aside and like gave you all that praise, that's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out is so if you are a fan of High School Musical, you will know that in High School Musical 3, there is that character of like the little Zac Efron in that
Rocket
movie.
Man?
Yeah, Rocket Man. That's Matt Prokop, and he has one line in my episode. And he is in my episode. And he was 18 at the time, and he for some reason was freaking out that during filming. He was like so nervous about this one line, to the point where honestly at some point we were like, this kid is gonna get fired, like he cannot, like he was like having such a hard time. And so my mom and this other girl, Caitlin, who also had one line, is like sitting him down and like trying to help him like pull it together and like be able to film his like one line during the live sessions. But he pulled it together. He was great in the episode. He flirts with Miley in it. He's like, hey Miley, or something like that, and she flirts with him during the episode. But yeah, if you go back and watch it, Matt Prokop is in my episode.
Hey, I'm gonna one up you on that one, on the cameo thing that I don't know if you knew. So in the scene when Roxy crushes the baseball, there's someone sitting in the back that I noticed as I was rewatching it recently. RJ Mitty, who played Walter Jr. in Breaking Bad, he is sitting at the cafeteria table.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yes, people have pointed that out. Now there's like some videos on it where they like circle him.
He's wearing like a Letterman jacket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, people. I mean, people work as extras all the time, before they start doing real stuff, like I did.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Hannah Montana being in my top 3 Disney Channel shows of all time. Sweet Life of Zack and Cody is definitely in there as well. I'd have to think about the third one was, but those two are definitely in it. And you played Leah, the goth girl at Camp Heaven on Earth. And so was this, I know obviously came out after, but was this after Hannah Montana? Like you filmed it after?
Yes.
So then did you be on Hannah Montana help you get your name there for more Disney Channel auditions, or did that not really, like, that didn't really matter?
I just think in general, so like you mentioned in the opening, that, so my first, I had 2 managers in my lifetime. The first one was, woman named Myrna. My second one was Linda Henrie, who is David Henrie's mother, and David Henrie, is now, because they revived the show. He is on Wizards of Waverly Place. He plays the oldest son on that show. So she was my manager all growing up. I grew up with him. His brother is actually Lorenzo Henrie, who is on that zombie show now that, I don't know why I'm blanking on it.
Walking Dead?
Yeah, The Walking Dead. Yes, he is very famous for his roles on the spinoff of The Walking Dead show. So David and Lorenzo Henrie, I grew up with them.
Wow.
And I grew up on the set of Wizards of Waverly Place. And actually, so I kind of take credit for the Wizards of Waverly Place even being a show on TV.
Ooh,
because,
okay.
And so I have a great story about that. I was on set with him and his mom. And so the person who created Wizards of Waverly Place actually wrote my character, the Cracker, Todd Greenwald.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So if you look at Wizards of Waverly Place, it'll say created by Todd Greenwald. Greenwald wrote the Cracker. And so I am on set watching them film the pilot of Wizards of Waverly Place because I am with my manager. And Todd sees me and he comes over and he's like, hey, Jaelin, because he knows me, because I played his character. And he's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing good, and I'm telling him about myself. And he's like, what do you think of the show? And I'm like, I think it's great, because of course I'm gonna say that. But I did think it was great.
Right.
But like, he's like, what do you think of the show? And I'm like, I think it's great because of this, this, and this. Because as a child actor, like when you are around people, like you are on, like you are like thinking of things to say. You are always like listening things. Like that's something that you're always thinking of as a child actor when you are around like producers and writers and everything. The first thing you always learn in an acting or an improv class is you never give a one-word answer. So someone says like, what do you think of the show? You don't say, it's great. You say, it's great because, and then you give like a list of answers. So he's like, I have some people I'd like you to tell that to. And I'm like, okay, great. And so I'm sitting there, and then he brings over the president of Disney, like literally the president. I don't know who was president at the time, but like, I don't know if it was that Bob guy or whoever, but it was the president of Disney, the CEO of Disney Channel, and then also like one of the main execs of Disney Channel. And they're like, hello. And they introduce themselves to me. And I'm like, okay, these are some big people. I'm like, hi, how, like, and they're like, what do you think of this show? And I'm like telling them all the reasons why it's great, because, you know, I know David's on it, obviously. And I'm like, yes, this is a great show. And this is why. And everything. And they're like, you don't think it's like Bobo's Magic Shop? It's not too little kiddish? And I'm like, no, it's not little kiddish at all. And I'm like, you know, really selling it. And they're like, okay, great. Well, thank you. It was very nice to meet you. And they leave. And like a week later, it gets picked up. So I'm not saying like I'm the sole reason, right? Because there's a lot of financial and other decisions. And Selena Gomez was also in another pilot at that time that got that starred Arwen from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. She got 2 pilots at that time, which, by the way, super unfair. I auditioned for that one.
Oh,
and
that was that a spin-off of Sweet Life, or was that a completely different thing?
Completely different thing. They were playing different roles. Yeah, he was a completely different person. I auditioned for that one.
I had Bill Cott on, who played Mr. Larry Tate last year, and he'd mentioned how it used to be it was originally the Amazing O'Malley's before it was Wizard of Waverly Place, and I don't know if you know like how long that name lasted before it became Wizards.
Not very long.
No?
The Amazing O'Malley's got pushed out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Wizards of Waverly Place became the name, I think, about 2 weeks after it got picked up.
Okay. That's such a, I mean, obviously, duh, because that's the name, but like that's such like a classic name. Like it just flows. Plus, like Alex Russo instead of Alex O'Malley. I don't know. Maybe off duh because it already happened, but like I just think that sounds better.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised just like how much things change so quickly in general. Like the scripts for like the Disney Channel shows, so much funnier, I think. Like, at the start of the week, they get edited so much during the week, though, that like by the time they hit the air, I just think there's so much like dumbed down and everything. Like by the time they hit the air at the beginning of the week, like so much funnier. And then they just get edited and edited and edited. And then by the time you film them, you're like, this isn't as funny, but sure.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because again, they also have to make it like, I know obviously some kids shows have like a little bit of adult humor in it, but I'm sure they got to also be careful about that. So then, which actually is funny because that reminded me of Sweet Life when there was the episode when they were making a TV show about them in it. Which was I thought was pretty cool. And
well, you know, that TV show, when they were making a TV show about them in it, my brothers were,
which is so cool.
Yeah, my brothers actually played Dylan and Cole Sprouse in those. So, and what was so funny is my brothers looked exactly like Dylan and Cole Sprouse growing up. And so when they went into audition for that, like they were so blown away that like in the audition they went and got Dylan and Cole Sprouse like from the set. and literally like brought them up. And if you Google my brothers, like the photo from that comes up on Google of them with them. And like, because they were just like, oh my God, like you guys look exactly like them. And they had to like go get them to go take a photo because like there was no question they were getting that role.
Right.
Because like they looked exactly like them.
So speaking of Dylan and Cole, and then obviously Ashley as well. I know you were definitely obviously working with Ashley more than those two, but just working with those three at the time, because that show was massive, not only in my house, even though it was massive in the world. So for you, like, did you have kind of like the similar experience of Hannah Montana? Like they were just so nice to you?
So I just wanted to say, like, in general, so Disney owns the world and they are so cheap, and like how they keep their billions. So if you recall, I was in 4 episodes of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, right? For those 4 episodes, Ashley Tisdale had to go shoot High School Musical 2 at the time. And so that's why they had those 4 episodes. So they had those 4 episodes so she could go shoot them. And what they decided to do was shoot all the scenes for those 4 episodes in 1 week. And so we shot all the scenes for those 4 episodes in 1 week together. And what Disney decided to do, once again, at that time, AFTRA and SAG are separate, right? So this whole show is AFTRA, right? Non-union, not SAG. And so they decided to pay all of us girls at that time for shooting 1 week of episodes. We got paid for 1 week. And a week for AFTRA that time, like I'm just going to tell you, because my mom, I didn't even know, like that was how little I got paid. A scale for 1 week of an AFTRA shoot is like $830. So I got paid. And how it works for Disney Channel is you do not get paid for any rerun that shows on a channel that Disney owns. So that includes Disney Channel, that includes ABC, that includes like any channel that Disney owns. So so you just think of like literally the hundreds of thousands of dollars I have lost like over the years of that, like of these episodes of Hannah Montana and Sweet Life like rerunning. So I basically got paid $830 for 4 episodes of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and $830 for like Hannah Montana. And like and like that's basically like it, because and like this has been replayed like thousands and thousands of times. Like,
that's how many times have you played in my house, let alone everywhere else.
And I don't get paid for that. So like, and when the streaming channels like bought it, like I get paid like cents on the dollars. I get residuals, and my mom actually has a TikTok channel.
Yes.
My mom's actually kind of TikTok famous, and we get we get residuals for like 30 cents, $1.30. But not very much. And they actually, like to go on like a little tangent, they sell books about like my Hannah Montana episode and my Sweet Life episodes. And they don't, all the pictures in the books, like I am not in the photos, so they don't have to pay me. Like there is a book about the cracker, Hannah Montana episodes, and the cracker is not in any of the photos. Like
that's crazy.
Like insane. So they don't have to pay me. Like it's just insane. Like Disney just finds all the ways not to pay people.
Wow.
But getting back to like the Sweet Life, it was really fun to work with them. It was like crazy at the time. I was actually doing the play High School Musical. I played Martha, who likes to pop, lock, jam, and break. I played Martha in High School Musical. I was doing that musical at the time. And so I actually like asked Ashley Tisdale to like, I showed her the dances to like we're all in this together, and I was like, am I doing it right and stuff? And she did like one time practice the dance with me, which was just like the coolest thing ever. I am the biggest High School Musical fan in the world. It was very cool for me because no one liked musicals growing up, and I loved musicals. And so for the first time in my life, like people liked a musical. And so I love musicals. I had a High School Musical 2 viewing party. Like like as a child, when I was like 12 years old, I had like a premiere party at my house, and I have photos from that of like, like themed plates and decorations and everything. Like I loved High School Musical. So yes, it was a very big deal for me to be there. So she was about to go shoot High School Musical too, but we shot all 4 episodes in a week. So it was a very compact time. They were all very nice to us. And I will say, Ashley Tisdale had a little bit of an attitude to her, just a little bit. I mean, like just like that, she thought that she was like very cool. Like she was talking about like going to shoot High School Musical 2, and she was like talking about like when she was like recording the song, she was like, they had to remind me that like, I had to sing like bad like Sharpay because I'm just like such a good singer and stuff. And and we were all just a little bit like, yeah, I mean, you're not really that good of a singer, Ashley Tisdale, but sure.
She doesn't sing now, if that tells you anything.
Yeah, and so we were just like, yeah, sure. But you know what? My friend the other day was like, "Where's Ashley Tisdale today?" And my mom was like, "You know what? I was on. My mom went to Cabo recently, and Ashley Tisdale was on the plane with her kid, and
Oh, no way.
and her husband, and she was like, I know where Ashley Tisdale is. I saw her the other day."
That's funny. What are the odds?
Yeah,
That's
so,
amazing.
But yeah, so that was funny. The nicest, most down to earth person, Brenda Song, by far. Brenda Song is the nicest, coolest. Like, she was like the most down to like interact with us and talk and like be fun. Brenda Song is the coolest person ever, and I will sing Brenda Song's praises for days.
I get that vibe seeing like all like the content that her and Macaulay Culkin have had recently, especially like they just seem like the coolest and nicest couple in the world.
Yeah, like Brenda's, and plus like she had the like best idea out of everyone. One like she did like all the Disney stuff, like got all of her money, and then was just like out of there, right?
Yep. She did Ultimate Christmas Present. So was it Stuck in the Suburbs?
I love
Wendy
Stuck in
Wu.
the Suburbs. I love that
Sweet
movie.
Sweet Life on Deck. That's actually so true. And then she's like, "Okay, see ya."
Yeah, like
That is a good call.
yeah, she was so smart. And I mean, like, she was a child actor too. Like, if you go back in her stuff, like, she did tons of stuff before that too.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was so smart. Loved her. The woman who played the nun too in my episode, she is so nice. Like, she has done a million things too. Like, such a talented actress.
Yeah.
Loved her. She was super fun. But that week, I also just like because they were still filming one main episode, they were just also filming all the stuff for these. So I still got to meet everyone. I met Mr. Mosby, I met Esteban. I got to do the table read for this too. So like, I met the mom and everything. Also nice. They also filmed all the other shows for Disney. Like there was a bunch of them that they filmed in that same building. And so I was, at the time, I knew this wonderful family who, unfortunately, their youngest daughter was dying of cancer at the time. She did eventually die. Her name is Cheyenne. She died at 9 years old. The Forever 9 Foundation is something you can still donate to help children with childhood cancer. I very much recommend that people look that up. But I was getting my script signed for her at the time. And so people from the cast very kindly walked me around to some other shows that were filming in order to get the script signed as well. So I got to go into that. So Raven, that was actually kind of easy because David Henrie, if people recall, was also a character on that show. So I'd been in there before, and also it was easy for like my manager to walk in there. She knew the people. So I went into that. So Raven, I went into what was the other one that was filming at that time? I'm trying to remember. Can't remember the other TV show, but I went into like a couple other TV shows. But because I was constantly like auditioning for Disney Channel TV shows, I was also like very familiar with the lot. And just in general, I spent a lot of time with my manager on the Disney Channel lot. So even though like I had booked Sweet Life, like I wasn't unfamiliar with the area and the territory. And also, if people look at the girls who I was working with, the other girls who were in Camp Heaven on Earth, Sierra Ramirez, she's a pretty big star now. Sammy Hanratty, she is currently on Yellow Jackets. And you know what? I was at in LA. I went to see Mean Girls, the musical, and I happened to go on like the LA premiere night. And so they had like a pink carpet that they were having stars walk down. Sammy happened to be one of the stars they were walking down. And so I saw her and I was just like, oh, like I was walking in, like just like past the red carpet. And I saw her, but I was just like, oh, hey, Sammy. And she looked and she was like, Jaelin, hey, long time no see. Because we stayed friends on Instagram all this time. And she was like, hey, long time no see. And she was just like leaning over the red carpet thing, like over the thing to talk to me. And everyone was like kind of like looking like, because it was like really random to have like one of the stars like leaning over.
Yeah.
But she was like leaning over and talking to me. And she was like, hey. And I was like, hey, like, good to see you. And she was like, oh, yeah, you look cute. And she was like, oh, like, and she saw my mom. She was like, hi, Natalie. And
that's so cool.
Yeah. And like, we were like, oh, hi. And I was like, congrats on getting married. And she was like, thank you. And she was like, oh, okay, I'll talk to you later. And then like I messaged her on Instagram later in the night. And like we talked like the next day through Instagram. So
that's
that
really
was
cool.
fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So your last credited role was a 2007 episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, where you played kid number 3. So once that episode came out, you would have been about 13. So I was wondering, like, what was like ultimately the decision that you're like, you know what, I am done with this. I do not want to act anymore.
Yeah. So with Curb Your Enthusiasm, by the way, I did not audition for that role. That was kind of funny. That casting director, I had auditioned for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, for Veruca, or not Veruca, for Violet Beauregard, like years before. And also for Unaccompanied Minors. And for both of them, but especially for Unaccompanied Minors, I had gotten down to what's called mix and match. And it's when you're in the very last stage for auditions and they bring you in to audition with actors who have already been hired for the roles. And like I said, I'm very tall for my age. And so I go in and my character's supposed to be 12 years old. And the main boy for that movie, he was supposed to be 14. I walk in, I'm like a foot taller than him. Immediately, I know, like, lost that role. So did not get that part. But she has this board behind her where she keeps like headshots of kids that she remembers. And like one day we get a call and we're like, hey, and my manager says, hey, you booked Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I was like, didn't audition for Curb Your Enthusiasm. And she's like, well, you're shooting it next week. And I was like, huh. And like, because you audition, if you like do 100 auditions, you are doing great if you book one. Like, it is hard to book something. So that was just like crazy. This casting director just remembered me, went and booked that. I will say Larry David is a crazy person. Like, actual crazy person. He like spilled his coffee and was like screaming at people to like get him another one. Like, he was he was insane on set.
He kind of seems like he is the person he plays.
Yeah, no, he is like that literally is him. Yeah, he was crazy on set. But the crazy thing about Curb Your Enthusiasm is if you watch the episode I'm in, you hear my voice and then they show an extra's face. Like you see me walk off. I'm with Larry David's daughter. But we always think it's funny because I get the most money, the most residuals from that show because it's on a major network and it's union. So they pay me every time they show it. And so I get the most residuals from Curb Your Enthusiasm and they don't even show my face.
That's crazy. That is, wow.
Yeah. So you just hear me scream, oh my God, a spider!
And then never see your face.
And then they just show an extra's face being like,
huh.
And yeah. And then like you see me walk off in the background with
funny.
With his daughter. Yeah.
Wow.
Weird.
I mean, hey, that's a good way to go out though, as your last thing. The fact that you didn't have an audition for it.
Yeah, no, it was really nice. It was nice not to have to audition for it. It really was. And weirdly, like My mom usually went to everything with me, and for some reason, my dad had to take me to film that one. So it was like it was like a weird last filming experience. I didn't know it was going to be my last one, but
So
my
then,
dad took me.
when was it when you're like, you know what, now I'm done?
So what ended up happening is there were a couple things that happened. Like I kept auditioning for a while, but I had a surgery that ended up triggering an autoimmune disease. So I got sick at a very young age. I got sick at age 14, turning 15. And then also, when I was 15 years old, because I was sick, I also graduated high school at age 15. And I took something called the CHESP, which is the California High School Proficiency Exam. And it gives you an actual diploma from the state of California, not a GED. And so basically, I couldn't return to school because I was too sick. And normally you have to be in the 10th grade in order to take that test. But because we were in acting, my mom knew someone who could enroll me in the 10th grade of a homeschool organization through acting, through an acting friend. And luckily, I had never had any problems in school. I was a pretty smart kid. In ninth grade, I was in honors geometry, which was able to get me through enough of the trig on the test. And I was able to pass that exam and get my high school diploma at age 15. And so I started community college at age 16. And so at that point, when I was 16, I was not doing well with my autoimmune disease. And I also was in community college. And like I said, with auditions, you usually get the call like the night before to like go to an audition. And I really wanted to focus on school. I was in college now. I wasn't feeling well. I was sick. And so at that point, I was just sort of like, I think I am done now and I need to focus on other things. And I did. But I stayed very involved locally in like community theater. I taught lots of classes. I choreographed shows. I taught children's theater. I taught privately singing, singing classes, and like I even helped this one girl get into professional acting that I knew privately that I taught from a very young age, and she ended up doing some professional acting by herself. But yeah, so I kind of stayed through that, involved through all of that, and yeah, and we all stopped at different ages. My sister, like she did two TV shows when we were kids, and like while like we were all actively acting, she decided she just didn't like it. She didn't do it anymore. My brothers, when they were in high school, they were playing basketball and like wanted to focus on that, and because like one of them was like captain of the basketball team and like ended up being like president of student government and stuff, and he wanted to focus on that, so they stopped in high school as well. And so yeah, we all just kind of stopped at different ages and we were done.
Wow. So it's actually, I'm glad you mentioned in college and everything, because the last couple of things I had for you was to talk about you going in college, you being in a sorority, and then the nonprofit Fight Like a Warrior. So can you just take me through those few things?
Yeah. So I really enjoyed my college experience. Like I said, I was in community college first, where I lived, and I was really sick for a time. It got to a point where there was one point where I had to sleep downstairs, like in a recliner, because I couldn't lay flat. my main condition is called trigeminal neuralgia. So it is permanent nerve damage in your face. And there was one point where all I could do was like eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom. I was very sick. And I had to have, so my original surgery was a complete reconstructive maxillofacial jaw surgery. And I had to basically have that surgery completely redone. And so I've had 2 complete reconstructive jaw surgeries on my face.
Wow.
Yeah. And so for the second one, my mouth was wired shut for 6 weeks. I had a tough recovery, but it really helped me. And I've seen pain management specialists my whole life, but who like helped me through varying times throughout my life. But after the second surgery, I was able to recover a lot. And I got my associate's degree in American Sign Language, and I was able to transfer to Cal State University Northridge. And I originally transferred there to get my degree in deaf studies. They have the second best deaf studies program in the nation. And I went there and I joined the sorority Delta Delta Delta, Tri Delta. They are famous from Saturday Night Live from their sketches. Delta Delta Delta, can we help you, help you, help you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are very fun. But basically, like a semester into being at CSUN, which is the short name for Cal State University Northridge, I got into this amazing fellowship where they pick 7 collegiate women from across the country, and they pay for you to live in DC, get high-level political training, and they let you pick a congresswoman to work for in the Capitol building. And they give you this like really high-level political training, and I just couldn't turn down that opportunity. And so I went and I moved across the country by myself. And I did that for a semester. And I realized that I loved politics and I loved working in politics, and working in the Capitol building every day was super exciting. And yeah, and so when I came back to school, I changed my major to political science with a focus in public policy. And I became a head delegate of the Model United Nations program. I was still in my sorority. I was an officer in that. I became the chair of elections for our student government program, and then chief policy advisor to the president. I was super involved in school. I also worked for our IT department. I did a fellowship for an organization called Jewish World Watch that focuses on preventing and ending genocide worldwide. When I graduated in the top 3% of my class, and I was the student speaker for my class, and I was just super excited. And when I graduated, eventually I ended up working for an incredible organization called Fight Like a Warrior. And at that time, they were looking to build their advocacy program, and I became the director of advocacy. And Fight Like a Warrior's goal was to advocate for people with chronic conditions worldwide. And I helped them build out their advocacy program. And it was really exciting. I worked for them for 3 years. And the president and founder, Alexa Chronister, became one of my best friends. She and her family actually helped me out of a very hard situation when I moved to Pennsylvania. And yeah, she is just an incredible person. She's a lawyer now here in DC. Or in DC, I don't live in DC. I live in Pennsylvania, but and works in healthcare, health law. But she is just an incredible person. The organization does amazing work, and yeah, I'm just very proud of the work that we did there.
That is crazy. So basically, from all the things you said, you were pretty bored in college and didn't do much, right?
Yeah,
That's
no,
insane amount of stuff you did. Holy crap! Good for you, because that's incredible.
yeah, I mean, I definitely worked hard in college, but I will say college taught me a lot about uh, managing your time and not overdoing it. There was like a point before my senior year where I was having panic attacks in parking lots, and like I had to learn to like pare down what I was doing, because I learned that you can't do everything and you have to take care of yourself. So
Yep.
I will like tell people like you have to know when to take care of you, and that is a very important part of being a person and living. And chronic illness has taught me a lot about that, just in general, like
Wow.
being able to take care of yourself, because I overdid it in college for sure.
Jeez Louise.
So
That's
make sure you
insane.
take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've taken up so much of your time. I will definitely have to have you on again to talk about so much other stuff. The last thing that I wanted to ask you, I ask everybody this: what's one thing you miss most about being a kid?
Oh, wow. I mean, there, I think there's so much like joy in being a kid. I had a great childhood, and I think I loved so much playing with my siblings. My siblings and I did a lot of imaginative play. We did a lot of like playing school and playing house, and like playing summer camp. And with three siblings, I had a lot of fun, like doing so much, like playing with my siblings. We made instruments out of like cardboard boxes and uh, like um, like rubber bands, and we do that, and we put on fashion shows, and we had so much fun doing things like that. And my parents were really good about like school wasn't the end all be all, and like everything was important, um, to be a good person. We were very well-rounded kids, and we got to try a lot of things. um, and so like we played sports and we played musical instruments, and we got to try a lot of things. And so I think just like playing with my siblings and doing all of the fun imaginative stuff, and like riding around the neighborhood on our bikes. And yeah, I mean, all of my siblings now are spread out, and anytime we're all together, we're very happy. So, yeah, I just love all my siblings a lot.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Jaelin Palmer, thank you so much for coming on here. I appreciate you wasting your afternoon with me, letting me ask the silliest questions I could think of. It was awesome having you on. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for letting me talk about everything. I feel like I went on a long time, but it was
Perfect.
super
That's
fun.
exactly why you're on here.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, I would definitely love to talk more sometime.
Thank you so much. All right, Jaelin, I will talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
And that was the Quinn Show.